This is the Red Podcast.
This is episode number 132. The topic, how to bounce back. Why is it that some entrepreneurs are able to do that so quickly? That's what we're talking about.
This is the Red Podcast. Real entrepreneur development. Make more money, work less, and live a life of freedom. No BS advice that really works. Here's your hosts, David Hooper and Laurel Staples.
We were at Toastmasters the other night, and the theme for that evening was Best Job You Never Had. So, David, you didn't get to go up there and speak and say much about it, but what is the best, I'm going to say the best 9-to-5 job you never had?
I had all the 9-to-5 jobs. I was fired from every one of them, and here I am.
You were not fired from every one of them.
You know, the best job I ever had, this is the honest-to-God truth, UPS guy.
But you had that job.
Oh.
This is the best job
FedEx
you
guy.
never had. The FedEx guy. All right.
You know what I loved about it? And this is the kind of job that I would want, is that you started with a mission, which was a ton of packages to get out. You got rid of those packages. And then the mission was to pick up packages, put them back on the truck, and you were done. And I loved the fact that it was done until the next day. You didn't have to worry about it. That's the one downside of this whole entrepreneur thing, is you're constantly thinking about your business.
There's no finality.
No, it just goes on and on and on.
Yep.
Never ends.
Yeah, I used to tell myself, if I could just get through this next project, if I could just get through this next week, if I could just get through this next day, things will be easier. Things will be simpler. I can focus on something else. And it just never happens that way. Like, there's always a new project, something else to do, something else to work on. It never settles down. That's why you got to do what you want to do right now.
So that doesn't answer your question, does it?
You said FedEx guy.
Oh, so that counts.
I guess that counts because you never were a FedEx guy. You were a UPS guy.
No, I worked for FedEx. I worked in the hub when I was in Memphis in school.
Oh, well, you still haven't answered the question then.
Oh, okay.
Best job
Okay.
you never had. Just throw it out there.
I don't know. You're not going to let me get away with my go-to de facto best job I've never had, which is owning a bunch of intellectual property and sitting back while I collect royalties.
Nope. So best 9-to-5 job you never had.
It's like dead air, Laurel. There isn't one.
We are waiting for your answer. There isn't one.
This is the Red Podcast. Red stands for Real Entrepreneur Development. This is the podcast for authors, speakers, and coaches. We'll help you to expand your influence, reach more people with your message, and make money doing what you love. We show you how to build a successful personality-based business and live life on your terms so you don't have to work a job.
Yep. You don't have to worry about that job you have or job you never had or will ever have.
This episode, we're talking about how to bounce back. We see this all the time. That's part of the entrepreneur roller coaster. You see guys doing great 1 minute. Next thing you know, bankrupt, in trouble. Then, a couple months later, they're back on top again. I'm going to be giving some examples of bouncing back from entrepreneurial issues. One of the big ones is rejection.
That comes up a lot for entrepreneurs. Because you don't get rejected too much in a day job. Not in the day job I had designing laser printers. There's not much rejection there. You just do what you're supposed to do, and there you go. But as an entrepreneur, you're going out, you're trying to make the sale, you're trying to market yourself, you're reaching out to people, you're asking for interviews, you're putting your book out there, doing whatever it takes to build your business. And with that path comes a lot of rejection, comes a lot of no's and a lot of ups and downs. And if you don't have the ability to bounce back, to stay focused, to stay on target and on the path, you are not going to make it very far.
Going to fail.
Well, you're going to fail, you're going to stall, you're going to have some issues if you're not able to bounce back, if you don't have resilience to carry on and go forward every time something quote unquote bad happens.
I like that you use the word failure. Let's define that. What is failure?
Failure to me is two things. You can fail by never starting. If you have a business that you want to start, an idea, marketing plan, whatever, and you don't start it, that to me is a failure. Or if you give up, if you just stop, if something quote unquote bad happens and you give up and don't go forward, those two things to me are the only ways that you can fail. If you try and something doesn't work out, that's not a failure to me. What do you define failure as, David?
I'm going to go with your definition.
All right, because it's awesome.
Yeah. Do you have a failure story?
Yes and no. How much time do you have? Per my definition of failure of never starting or of giving up, and I mean giving up in the long haul. I don't mean just giving up on an idea or a business.
Moving forward.
Yeah, I mean giving up in that you had this dream and you built your business and then you went bankrupt and then you went back to a job for the rest of your life. That to me is giving up. I don't mean like you shut your business down and then you learn the lessons and started a new business, because that's what I did with my retail store. That was my first full-time entrepreneurial venture. After my corporate job, I quit my job to do this retail store, and I ran it for a few years, and it was a wonderful experience. If you were from the outside looking in, it might look like a failure because I ended up closing the doors on it and moving on to the next thing. And it kind of felt like a failure at the time as well, but because I gave up on that store and decided I wanted to go a different direction with my life and with my career. And that's when I got into coaching. So I did give up on that store, but I didn't give up on my dreams of being an entrepreneur and building a business and doing what I wanted to do and have that freedom. I didn't go back and say, oh, well, I guess I got to work a corporate job for the rest of my life or anything like that. So yes and no on that failure. What about you, David? Do you have any big failure stories?
I don't know about big ones because I look at it the same way that you look at it. But I've brought up the example a few times when people have asked me questions like this. My very first book, I was excited to get it out, and I still remember the headline on one of the reviews, which said, "A joke, just like David Hooper himself." So not only did the person not like the book, they didn't like me. That was kind of stinging. And a lot of the reviews were not as great as I thought they should have been. A lot of bad reviews for this first book. Partly because the book wasn't edited well. It was rushed. I was in my 20s. I didn't really know what I was doing, certainly not as much as I know what I'm doing now. What happened because of that failure, if you want to look at it, was the next book and the next book and the next book, they all kept getting better and better, and now I know what I'm doing. And I actually have a platform now to reach more people. I'm not just selling a few thousand books. I can sell even more. And those books need to be good. So that was a very good thing. It kept me from really falling on my face when I had the opportunity to reach a lot of people. I just kind of fell on my face locally, if you want to use that analogy.
I think failure in that situation would have been you writing that book, getting rejected through the reviews that you got for it, saying David Hooper is a joke and so is your book.
No. He said, a joke, just like David Hooper himself.
Okay. So getting that feedback and then just quitting and saying, I'm never going to write a book again. This is just not for me. I'm not good at it. That to me would be a failure. What you got was a rejection, and you found a way to bounce back from it and write other books and many successful books. And that's what we're talking about today, is how to have that resilience and that ability to bounce back. So you do things, you learn those lessons, and then do things that are better and greater than you did before.
When you think about this, the failure part, that's up to you. But the rejection, whether it's rejection of the market or rejection of an attractive member of the opposite sex or rejection of whatever you're doing, somebody else's opinion of you, two different things. Shark Tank, last week, saw a guy on the air, and they were like, he's back. They're trying to make it look like it's a big deal, but I guess this guy had been slammed hard the first time he was there a few seasons ago.
Yeah, he was selling meat products.
He was selling meat. So as a vegetarian, I wasn't really paying attention to this guy, but apparently the first time he didn't know his numbers, didn't know what he was talking about. It wasn't a failure, it was rejection. He went back, got the numbers, came back, and walked away with the deal.
He did, but not only did he get rejected at something like you did, David, on Amazon, he got rejected by the Sharks and also, 8 million viewers watching? And he was able to take that experience, which would be, I'm going to say horrifying for me to be rejected in front of 8 million people. And he was able to take that experience and not wallow in pity and not go back to a day job, but he was able to progress and learn and grow and then come back, try it again, and get a deal. That to me is a huge bounce back. You don't see that happening on Shark Tank very often or any other similar type situation because it's hard.
Well, I see it happen a lot with entrepreneurs. There are definitely those people that they don't think about rejection. Being in the information marketing business, I used to know a lot of guys when this was very popular. They were in the pickup genre. Are you familiar with that?
Mm-hmm.
These guys go around to clubs and they talk negatively about women, and the women are somehow amazingly attracted to them because of that.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
It's one of the techniques.
That's like a technique to pick up women?
Yeah, you talk bad about them, then they try to prove themselves to you.
Oh.
Anyway, that's
fascinating.
That's neither here nor there, though. But these guys, whenever these guys would do whatever their latest pickup technique was, it's not going to work on every woman.
Like me.
Absolutely not. No.
You got to be nice to me.
Got to be nice to you. Because of that, these guys are getting rejected quite a bit, but they don't think like that. They think, well, there's 100 women in the bar. I'm just going to blow through the room.
That's something to keep in mind, that rejection is not failure. Because if you ask something enough times, you're going to get a yes. And that's something that you want to know is just because you ask one person and they said no, like you asked the Sharks for a deal, they say no, that's not a failure, that's a rejection. And those two things are really different to me. And I like what you said earlier, David, is like failure is a choice on your part. And rejection might be something happening to you, but failure is what you might take from that rejection. That's on you.
I get rejected all the time reaching out to guests for Red Podcast. This is not a podcast where we just take anybody when we want to do an interview. We do very limited interviews. First 100 episodes, we didn't do any interviews. So we're not interview-centric here. Because we don't have to have interviews, we could do episodes together. I can do solo episodes. I reach out to people that are more established, people that I feel have something to say. And these people are very busy. A lot of times I don't hear back from them. A lot of times when I do hear back from them, they're going to say no, or they're going to put me off. Hey, get with me in a few months. This isn't a good time for me. It happens all the time. You can't let that stop you. A lot of people in the podcasting space, because the interview format is so popular, you've seen these guys come out with these daily episodes. And it's not easy to do a podcast 7 days a week, especially when you have to have interviews. It's an interview format, and without the other person, it's not going to work. Well, what do you do when somebody says no? The only thing you can do is keep asking until you get a yes.
Mm-hmm. And that was something in the book Rejection Proof, which has just come out recently from Jia Zhang, who you had on the podcast. So he did do an interview.
Yeah, that was episode number 103, which is at redpodcast.com/103.
One of his examples in the book was he did 100 days of rejection where he actively went out and tried to come up with scenarios where he would get rejected. And one of them was that he put together his resume and he was going to just random different businesses or corporations on the street. And he was going in and seeing if he could find someone to give him a job for one day. Just if someone would hire him for one day. And I think it was for free, so it's a little bit different than hiring. But he went to the first person. They probably thought he was nuts. They told him no. He went to the second building, asked the same question, same way, same resume. They said no. And the third time, he met somebody who actually ended up saying yes. And that was his point, was if he had just given up after the first one, by our definition of failure, that would be failure, is he chose to give up. But he asked many times and he finally got a yes. And if you keep asking, you will get a yes. And that's something you want to keep in mind with rejection, is don't give up just because one person didn't like what you were doing. That makes absolutely no sense and doesn't have bearing upon the value of what you're offering or what you're bringing to the table.
And again, that episode was 103, redpodcast.com/103. Ja actually rejected me, turned me down when I first asked him about doing an interview. He said, I'm too busy.
Bam.
Got this book coming out. Can we do it after the book is out? I said, no. We'll have you back after the book is out, but I want you now because this is an important story that we need to get out. He said, all right.
So if you keep asking.
There's another book. It's called Anti-Fragile, Things That Gain from Disorder by Nassim Nicholas Taleb. I love this concept, but let's talk about fragile first, what that means to put it into context. You know, if you had a vase or a glass, something that would be sent to you and it has a fragile sticker on it, if you drop it, it breaks.
Yep.
The concept of anti-fragile, and this is so cool to me. What if you dropped something and it made it stronger?
Mm-hmm.
I think about that when I think about rejection, because you get better at thinking on your feet so you don't get rejected when you go through rejections. Because you've had success afterwards, you realize that rejection doesn't last for long. You realize that there's life after rejection. You're not going to sit there and wallow in your own pity.
Hope not.
The more you go through this, the stronger you get, the quicker you bounce back. And that's why you do see so many entrepreneurs, like I mentioned, that can be up 1 minute, they hit some kind of failure, they bottom out, they're bankrupt. A few months later, they're back.
If you think about it with that vase example, is that if you drop it, say you shatter, if you think about it with that vase example, say you drop the vase and it shatters and you glue it back together. And then you drop it again, the smaller pieces shatter and you glue it back together. Well, that glue is a lot stronger than the vase originally was itself. So you're actually becoming stronger if you pick yourself back up, bounce back, and pull yourself back together. So that's how you can get stronger with this anti-fragile movement, I'm going to say.
That's how broken bones work. They heal stronger than they were originally.
I've never broken a bone, so...
Well, I hadn't either.
Okay.
And I don't
So
want
we have
to, but
weak
if you
bones.
did and it were to heal back, it would be even stronger.
So how are some ways that one can be anti-fragile, that you can bounce back when something bad happens, either a rejection or even worse, a failure?
I think knowing your purpose, that comes up on Red Podcasts all the time. Know your why. Why are you doing something? When you have that, it's much easier to stand up again.
When you had put out your book, your first book, and got a bad review on Amazon, what was your purpose there? What helped you move forward and write other books and do it again?
Well, I wanted to spread the message. I had something to say, and I knew that what I had done wasn't perfect. So in a lot of ways, those reviews were right. I took the good from those bad reviews. And the basic good that I got out of them was saying, like, hey, this book wasn't edited well. It was kind of thrown together, and it was. And I knew that I could do better. And knowing that I had that message and knowing that I could do better, I wanted to get back on the bike and try it again. Because I knew that that wasn't my best work. Now, if I had given everything that I had and somebody still thought it was bad, I might have felt differently at that time. But today, because I know that I'm giving it everything that I had, and because I know that I've got that message, it just bounces off of me.
So your purpose is having that message that you want to spread and feeling really passionate about getting it out there.
I think that's the big one. Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
You want to help people. You want to make change. Those are two really big ones.
Yeah, it could also be that for an entrepreneur, you have the vision that you want to make money and you want to live life on your terms and you want to have that freedom, and you're holding that vision and you're not going to stop until you achieve it. I mean, that could be your purpose right there. It could be to support your family. It could be any number of things. But when you have your purpose, you're going to pick yourself back up and you're going to glue yourself back together because there are no other options, because you're on a mission.
To take it back to Ja and the 100 days of rejection, this guy had a goal, and it was just 100 days. He wanted to get through 100 days. But when you think about it, spreading your message, knowing your why, that's a goal. So if you can think of it in that kind of terms, with Ja, I'm sure he got to day 50, and he's like, man, I don't know that I could go on. Halfway through, but I've still got halfway to go. But knowing that there was that light at the end of the tunnel, it allowed him to keep going. And something else that he had, and I think this is worth adding to the list, is he had a super strong support system. He had people that were watching him as he was doing this live via his blog, via YouTube. And that can help. So I would add support system to the list.
Support system can be people like that, your fans, people supporting you to do what you do. It can also be your friends or family members. Not all of us can be famous like the rejection guy, but it can just be the people you surround yourself with. They are going to help pick you back up and allow you to move forward and encourage you and all those things that we all need. That's something critical. If you don't have that, you're more likely to either never start or stop or quit.
You mentioned being famous and coming from the music industry and working with a lot of famous people. I think it really should be those people that are close to you rather than the fans that are just with you because you are famous or just with you because you happen to be popular or trendy or at the top of whatever's hot right now. Those people are fleeting. You want people that are going to stick things out with you even when the chips are down.
Something that's always helped me and the people that I work with overcome rejection and potential failure is looking for the lessons in the failure or in the rejection. That's what you did with your book, David, is asking yourself, what can I learn from this? Not how much does it hurt? How much did this wound my ego? But what can I learn from this? What can I take away from this experience and apply it to the next thing that I'm going to do to make that better, to make myself better, to make myself stronger? So really looking at the positive in it, because how many times have you had a horrible, awful experience in the moment that turned out to be the greatest thing that ever happened to you? And that's what it looks like to bounce back and to take the good from a bad situation and to propel yourself forward with that.
Compartmentalizing is very important, and that can be within the review. For example, to go back to that Amazon book, there were some things within the review. Hey, this thing needs to be better edited. Well, that was true. Some of the other things I didn't agree with, but taking the good and leaving the bad. But the compartmentalization can also help within different aspects of your life. For example, your relationship is going really well, your business, maybe not, or vice versa. Your business is going well, relationship is not. Don't throw everything out just because of one part of what you're doing isn't going well.
You can also compartmentalize your business. You could say, hey, okay, my blog is going really well. It's really strong, but I'm not getting as many clients as I would like, or something like that. Or my book writing is going really well, but I'm not getting as many speaking engagements as I would like. Is to compartmentalize and not what you said, David, look at it as all bad. It's all not working now. Things are working. You got to focus on the positive and then try to pick up the things that aren't working as well. So that will help you bounce back because you never fall all the way down when parts of your life are working great.
You have questions or comments, you have a story about how you bounced back, reach out to us. redpodcast.com is where to get us. We got an app, Laurel.
The app is awesome, David.
The app is good. We're on the Apple App Store, Google Play Store, Amazon App Store. So if you've got iPhone, you've got Android, we've got you covered. The app is free. If you listen via iTunes, subscribe. Search for Real Entrepreneur Development. And while you're there, leave a rating, leave a review. That will help us to come up more frequently in the iTunes search engine. When that happens, more people can find out about us. We build the Real Entrepreneur community. Everybody wins. Thanks for listening. Send your bounce back story to redpodcast.com, and we'll see you on the next episode.
You've been listening to Red Podcast, Real Entrepreneur Development. Subscribe today using iTunes, Stitcher, or via RSS at redpodcast.com.